early on, quadrotors became, or drones as some people call them, became a viable weapon in the Ukrainian conflict because of a number of reasons, but one is they're cheap. The consumer grade electronics to control them was well developed. So you could get FPV goggles on your head and you can control a quadrotor for about 2 or 3 kilometers. And that was like, buy them on Alibaba, it's there 2 days later, like off you go. You take that, you strap a grenade to it. It's a weapon. It's great. For a country that did not have a viable defense, it proved extremely effective. The thing is, you can deploy 50 of them for the cost of 1 Javelin missile.
In the military, there's actually become a new term that's come out of the Ukraine war of attritable robots. Robots that it's completely okay if they're just a one-way thing.
And that, of course, has been aided by cheap lithium-ion batteries, cheap motors, cheap control systems, and that's all was actually fueled. I think it's probably one of the rare cases where commercial consumer toys influenced military hardware and not the other way around. Now, that phase died off because they realized that you're using radio to control these things. And despite trying to encrypt it and despite trying to be clever with the radio, eventually people started walking around with big backpack-mounted jammers that output like a dead zone of about 500 meters around it. And so as soon as the drone enters the zone, all radio communication is, and it just falls out of the sky immediately. And so the immediate next step was now there are these drones, same drones, a little bit bigger to carry a little bit more weight, that have a cylinder on the back that has a spool of about 10 to 30 kilometers of fiber optic line, which is hair thin, right? So the question is, how do you defend against this? You can't use jamming because jamming is irrelevant. You can't use directed energy weapons, like basically directed jamming or directed EMPs, because again, like you can shield these things. It's an optical signal. You're feeding video back to the operator and you're feeding commands forward.
How fast do these drones fly?
Very fast. I mean, as slow as you want, and I would have to guess up to 60 miles an hour.
No, but I mean, like you have an AGV that has, teethy treads.
And it just drives back and forth.
Yeah,
constantly.
all day, every day.
I mean, if you can make the AGV cheaper than the drones, then...
I mean, not necessarily cheaper, but like if it's small enough and fast moving enough, it would take several drones to get it.
So what you're saying is, I like this idea. This is very Mad Max. If I'm setting up a forward post somewhere and I want to defend against it, then 2 kilometers away from the forward post, or 1 kilometer, you set up a series of saw blades, basically, like roving saw blades that just spin in a circle. So it's a robot with a saw blade on the front of it, ground robot. And it just...
Like one of those battle bots with a buzzsaw.
That just at very high speed